Hi, my name is Christopher Schenck, and I'm a teacher at the Academy. I teach digital clothed figure, perspective, comics, all the drawing and storytelling parts of the work. And today we're going to do a demo on how to interpret reference, which means how do you pick the reference, what do you use, what do you throw away, interpreting. And so let's get started. I'm using Photoshop on a Cintiq. I've got that's working off of a MacBook Pro. Photoshop is the good general use program. I also use Clip Studio sometimes or Storyboard Pro, but for today we'll just stick with Photoshop, okay? And so let's get started. Here. Okay, so out of these two that I picked, right, neither one is perfect. We just say that right away, right? Neither one is perfect. But if we look at them side by side, let's turn them down in opacity so I can draw over and make a new layer. And now if we look at the one on the left, right, so the biggest issue here is we have this belt which has a tangent right here with the waist, right? So that is a problem. And it's going to make everything flat. The other one is have this whole side of his figure is in shadow, and the arm is riding along that whole edge from shoulder to elbow. Only at elbow does it turn in, and so this is all going to be flat. So that's another big problem. I would say, let's see, and there's also this, the sword comes out. It crosses over the shield, so it's not technically not a tangent. It does come in front, but it's very close, right? And so in terms of storytelling, it may not be that good. It may not be that obvious or clear. And that's one of the things you want to do is to, in your work, you want things to be clear to people looking at your work. So, so those are the kind of the bad points about this reference. This one on number one on the left. Right? But if we look at for good things, what can we use here? Well, all of this shape, if we look at the negative space, right, that's good. It's clear, defined, like you can see the angle of the head. There's a nice negative space between the front of the figure where it leads into the action going to the right and the sword. So there's a nice negative space here. The head is clearly shown. The angle on the head is good. The expression is good. And if we get in close and we look at this, there's enough information in there to do a good job. You can see the hand, you can see the straps, you can see where the elbow is, you can see the folds wrapping around. So there's some good things there. It's not a total failure. Now let's go and look at the next one, shall we? And we'll just, I'm going to pause the recording here for a second. Now let's talk about this other one over here. So this one, get in close and look at it. What else do we see? We see some similar problems with tangents, right? For instance, if we look at the back, oops. For instance, if we look at the back, come on. If we look at the back and the hand, right, there's a big tangent right there, and that covers important information. Not only is the hand a tangent with the back, but the shoulder is hidden, right? So that's not good. I do see like the belt comes down that's okay. I'm not going to make that red. We'll save that. There's a tangent with the shoulder and the shield and the chin right there. That one's not such a big deal because it's easy to move things around there. And then the shoulder and the elbow are hidden here, right? So that's a potential problem there, right? But if we look at the good stuff, let's look at the good stuff here. See what we can see. Well, again, the angle on the face is clear. There's good light on the face, right? You can see the expression. There's good light on the hand and the sword, right? There's a nice negative space here, right, where you can see, you can see the motion, the lean in, right? There's good information on this hand. Feet are clear. The belt comes down, within the shape, like there's the lower body, and then the belt is held within that shape, so that's clear, and it overlaps. Oh wait, but I just noticed something else. We look at back here, right? This strap comes down, which is okay. It comes down here, but there's another tangent with the hilt of the sword, right? It goes back behind the shoulder, so that's hidden and it's a tangent. And here we see the top of the sheath, but then, and that's okay, right? From here to here is okay, but then down here, you see it blends in. There's an extra shape here, so that's not so good, right? So let's compare all of these, right, and decide which one we're going to use, right, out of those two. I'm going to go for the one on the right, I think. I can move that hand away from the shoulder and show the shoulder. I can fix the tangents in the back with the scabbard. That's it's very simple. So I think I can do a pretty good job on this one. Let's throw this one away. And get into work here. So the first thing I'm going to do, since I'm working in Photoshop, is I can use layers, and I'm going to look at how I can make a plan for changing and dealing with this. So I might do some sketches. I'll make my brush a little thinner, so I draw little sketches. And I might just sort of sketch out the motion I see. Right? So one thing about this kind of pose is, for most of my work, storyboards, comics, that sort of thing, I would have to change this position, this pose, quite a bit, right? Because the motion is in the middle. Right? So the motion is here, and it doesn't really convey much action. Right? Putting the elbow in like this inside, and so that's the problem I want to fix. Right? If you think about the motion of this kind of activity, like if he was really swinging the sword, right? The foot placement is probably pretty good, right? So if we look at just, I'll put, this foot here in my little stick figure, and this foot here. It's more of a straight leg. See, that's a locked knee position there. So I drew it bent, right? And I drew it bent both times. Maybe not. Maybe it's not bent, but let's say it's more straight. Right, and that's a clue into how to draw the pose, because that means he's pushing off of this back foot, Right? The front leg is a little bent, the back a little straight. So, but if you're really doing this kind of swing, you would start back here, right, with the sword, maybe the sword like this, right? So that you might have the shield up, right? So that might be like the beginning of your swing, right? And then, oops, let's move this guy out of the way. And then, the follow through would be, he'd be extended much further, right? So like the follow through, if he puts his shield, keeps a shield in front of him like a good soldier should, the shield stays in front. The head will come down, right? But the shoulder will be in front, like that. So we have to think about this action. You might even like bend this leg a little more, right? That leg is going to stay straight, right? And then the sword would come, from the back to the front. It looks like he's swinging overhand, so that means that the arm would come down with a slicing motion like this. So start here at number 1, swing across to number 2 position where he's hitting his enemy, right? And keeping his shield up in front of his face, right? And there will be maybe some twist across the body, right? So let me make that a little clearer for you, right? So the head would be here, the shoulder down, hand, the sword here, right? And then, so this would be, the shoulder would be in front, and he'd have the shield up, right? And there would be some twist at the waist. Right? So that's we just have to think about this motion. In the back, the first position, back, the shield up, right? The foot position doesn't really change much between, the start and the stop motion. Between, position A and position B, the feet stay basically in the same place. He's not taking a step, right? So that means, based on that, he's halfway. He's at this point in the motion, right? Which is the least interesting point in this motion, right? Generally, storyboard artist would pick either A or B. Comic book artist might, sometimes you see them picking the middle in between A and B. But I think it has less impact, right? But how can we use this reference and get somewhere a little bit closer to either A or B? I'm going to go, towards the A side, just because the hand position, if I move it forward, it gets in the way of the face. If I move it backwards a little bit, then I can show the shoulder, right? So that's what I'm thinking. And so let's put this, let me see, let's grab this and put it on its own layer. I'm going to shrink it down so it can just be this little thumbnail. We don't need to use it that much. And then these, I'll just merge this down and put that up here. like so. Right, so that's out of the way. And then we get in a little closer. Gotta get just right. There we go. So, yeah, that's a little distracting. Let's make it disappear. Right? So I'm gonna sketch out a little bit my plan. Right? So I'm just looking to fill the space, like, you know, the sword's going to be up here, so I just don't want to get too far out of the square, right? So I'll put, you know, his head will be somewhere in here, and I look straight down, right? If I look straight down from his chin, that's what I would line up is, you see, toe and face, and that gives me a negative space. So that's what I'm looking for, is just look straight down from where, and then put the head, or sorry, the foot here in the beginning, or in the far bottom right. And then look at the negative space. Let me turn this down a little bit and draw over it for you. So as I'm evaluating the pose, right, I'm looking at the negative space. I talked about this vertical from the head to the foot, right? So this is what I'm looking at, is this space. There, snap turned on, turn snap off. And then between the feet, I'm looking at this negative space. It's just a big triangle. Right, and that helps me place this foot, right? Because if I look at how they line up, if I go straight over, the back foot is up a little bit, and so that's what I've done over here, is put the front foot down a little bit, the back foot up a little bit, and then we have this big arch here, right? So that's how I'm starting, and just keep going a little bit. So I'm going to draw his head shape, right? And then put the far shoulder back there. Get that out of the way. The shoulder's behind, right? And I'm going to show that the shoulder is behind. So I'm going to use the information I can see, like the collar wrapping around, going behind the neck, right? That gives me form over form, and that helps create a feeling of solid, three-dimensional forms, right? So this, the shield's going to be here, and I'm gonna exaggerate this forward motion, what I call the leading edge of the torso, and I'm not trying to draw exactly what I see. I'm just like get the exaggeration, right? Because I want to get to the hip. So if I can just get this to lean in a little bit and then wrap the belt around, right? So I'm looking at the wrapping around here, right? Then I can see how much I have to bend this knee, right? Because if I want to exaggerate the pose, I'm going to exaggerate the leaning in a little bit, going that way. I'm going to need to bend the knee a little more than I see, so I can, put this leg like about here. Right? So that's sort of what I'm thinking. Just looking at proportions, I may give the upper body, make that belt a little higher. Right? Maybe I'll make the head a little smaller. I don't want to make it too big on the head because the heroic figure should be about 8, 9, at least 8 heads, 9, 10. In comic books, 10. Right? So I've got this negative space, and I've just exaggerated that, pushing the belt back a little bit. Right? It's basically the same as what you see. If this leg is slightly bent a little more, put the foot and then go back, when I'm drawing the back foot, I want to look for a straight line. Basically, turn this down for you a second. We talked about that stuff. Now I'm looking at this leg. If the leg is straight, then it must be what you call a B shape. So like the hip is going to be here. Right? There's probably a little bit of a bend at the waist. Like this. But he's pushing off of this leg, right? So and when things push, they line up, right? So the hip is going to be pretty much in line with this, and he's going to have on the locked knee position. You take a look. The inner edge of the inner edge of the knee, the ankle, the gastrocnemius, this muscle in the calf, right? The quadriceps right above the knee, and at the upper end of the thigh at the crotch. They all line up in this so I know, and then on the outside of this straight line, most of the muscle mass is on the outside, and so you get this what I call the B shape of the leg, right? And so I can see that in the reference, so I know what that is, and I'm just gonna, I'm gonna put that into my drawing by looking for the center line of the torso to help me find the center line of the belt, to help me find where the hips end and the leg inserts on the inside to the ankle, and that gives me my B shape. So, and then I can look at where the knee lines up here and here. They should be about the same, and that's placement of this rear foot. Okay, like so. And we're going to take a pause here for a second, turn off the recording. Okay, and now we're recording again, and I'm just going to 1, 2, 3, 4, circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, circle. That's our marker, and going back to work. Now, so I've got lean in, a little exaggeration to bend the knee a little bit more. The back leg is straight. The front foot is lower and lines up with the head. And the back foot is up and back a little bit in the straight leg. Now, and the shoulder is behind the head. Now, here's the tricky part. I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to figure this out, right? Because what I want to do is I want to have him, leaning in, right? But the arm has to follow, and I want to show the shoulder. The shoulder is super important, because if I can get the shoulder here to come forward and be in front, then I can show the shoulder behind going back, and you see that's going to create depth and make him feel three-dimensional, right? Plus, I have this other thing going on. Let's get in a little closer and look, right? The lining up of the shoulder back here, you see, it's actually, if I look carefully, it's not in front of his chin like I put it, right? That's my change, right? It's actually back a little bit. So if we look at it, here's the neck. Getting close. There's the chin. There's the neck. This is the collar wrapping around, right? But this is fabric, right? And there's some folds here. I don't know if you can see it that clearly, but there. Right? And the shoulder is here. and then it comes down to meet the arm. Right? And so the front of the torso is actually here. Right? And so that's important information, and we need to know it so that we can change it, basically, because that placement of the this shoulder and the shoulder, not that good. We can do better, right? So let's go back to our sketch over here. Oops. And ask ourselves, how are we going to change it? Well, I want to create depth. And one thing we can do is look at the hips. If the hips are wrapping around this way, right, and this hip is lined up with this leg going straight, right, and then there's compression here where the other leg is bending, right. So I'm just going to go heavy-handed here so you can really see, right. If that's what's happening, then it makes some sense that I'm going to bring this shoulder down and put the chin and the face above, right? Because as things go away, things go farther away from us, they get smaller, right? And they head towards the horizon. So if my eye level is here, or here, which it is, look at the photo, as it gets smaller, it goes down. Plus, if I bring this shoulder up, it makes it more prominent and stronger, right? So the only thing I have to do is keep this angle going back, keep the shoulder in front, keep this one back, right? I'm going to keep the hand placement of the other hand, the hand holding the shield, in about the same place as it is in the reference, because it will keep the shield up if he's a good soldier. Right? But this other hand, now I'm gonna move it away from the shoulder, right? So that means I'm gonna decide, like, do I put the elbow here? Like this? That's one option. Or, do I put the elbow here? If I move the hand away, maybe I just move it away a little bit. Like so. Right. So the thing is, when I'm looking at this, when I'm moving these shapes around, I have to be extremely conscious of wrapping around the form and tangents, right? So like if I move the elbow, I don't want to put the elbow here on this line with the back, right? Because that's just creating another tangent. Right? It's not going to look good. If I draw, like so. Right? That's not going to look so good. So, and remember, this is not perfect reference, right? So there's only so much you can do if you really want to change the pose a lot. Then you have to get a new reference, right? Because you won't be able to do it, right? So I'm gonna put the elbow out a little bit from the arm, right? I'm gonna go for this kind of a position, right? Like this, because that gives me the best overlaps. And so I'm gonna show the shoulder, have the arm come forward, and put the elbow outside the body, and then have the belt wrap around like so. Right? And that way, now that frees up the shoulder so I can show the strap wrapping around, right? So this is all my plan. And I'll just change the angle of this sheath. Like if he's really in motion, it would dangle about, right? So I just put it back this way. So I'll deal with that later, right? And simplify. I don't know if I'm going to use that that buckle or not. It doesn't look that good. So I can just say I'll put a buckle here. That's fine. So then, excuse me. So let's take a look at our plan here, and I would just I want to make sure the silhouette is going to read and be clear and compelling, right? So I'm going to use a big brush on a new layer, and I'm going to outline the silhouette shape that I want my figure to have, including the sword. So I'm going to see now, by moving the hand, I changed the angle on the sword a little bit, and now it's going up past my crop. So that's something to think about. Well, maybe, bring it back a little bit, like this, to here. Right? As long as it reads okay, right? That'll work. So we can have the sword going this way: shoulder, arm, elbow, belt, wrapping around, collar, wrapping around, head, other shoulder, and then placement of the shield and the hand. I left that for later because, when I'm working, I do the hardest stuff first because I need to get that right. And if I do all the other stuff first and the easy stuff, and then I try and do the hard stuff, well, it's a chance that I, did the easy stuff wrong. So, I know that the hand and the shield is easy to do because I can see them clearly, and I basically like them. And if I fix this front shoulder and hand first, then I'll know what to do with this back arm. So the trick here is just don't hide the elbow, right? We need to see the elbows back, and it leads up to the hand. And that means that the arm has to wrap around. You see, we need to get this hand to come forward. So we make the fold, the fabric is going to come down and wrap around, and put a little cast shadow under there, right, inside the sleeve, right? So that will show that the overlapping will show that the hand or the arm is coming from the sleeve, and then we can just put a tone or something over that. That's going to knock that back. And overlapping on the thumb, right? And that will look like his elbow is back. And then we draw the strap, and here, you see, we talked about that there's a little bit of a tangent back here with the shield and the shoulder and the chin. And we're just going to make the shield big enough that it goes behind like this. Basically, in Photoshop, we'll just make a new layer, right? And I'll just draw a nice ellipse. Take a few tries, but it doesn't matter. It takes a minute. All right, so I like that one. And then I'll just move it over here and move it around until I like the angle, like this. Okay. Just put the arm in the middle, right? Because the way it's built, the arm has to be in the middle of the shield, that's all. Just do that, right, like that. Right, you see? And so then I can just get rid of this little piece of this. Oops. Yeah, that worked. There we go. And we'll pause our recording for right now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, circle. And here we go. So where were we? right? So I'm just gonna talk a little bit more about placement. So all of the stuff we just did is just about arranging the shapes so that they work well together and avoiding tangents, right? So back to my, there's that. So I'm just gonna make this outline of the basic silhouette that I want, right? The front of the shirt is kind of loose, and there's some folds in the back. We'll get to those in a second, but the basic shape is shoulder in front, waist behind, belt wraps around. Then the knee is, we already figured that out, and this knee, we already figured that out, and legs and foot, the wedge shape for the foot, wedge shape for the foot, and then the tunic goes down to just above the knee and it goes across. The belt drops down from the hip and drops past the bottom of the tunic, right? So, and then the scabbard belt wraps around the shoulder and goes behind. Now, the question is, do we want to see anything below? And it's not that interesting. So we just leave it. Right. So that, let's merge that and just get rid of this. Yeah, we don't need that. So we look at the whole thing, right? Now, we haven't changed it a lot. We did fix this shoulder, make the hand separate from the shoulder, make this shoulder visible, keep the shield up, right? So he's not, in the most exciting position, but we are telling the story of what he's doing. And the only other thing I would say is we want to consider other changes, right? So this one, yeah, that's my plan. The other changes I would consider would be, maybe change the shape of the belt, or if he's moving forward, maybe make the belt follow. Right, the belt is pretty simple. It's just kind of a knot here, and in another video, I may get a chance to talk about design, how to make something like that simple. It's a little too simple, how to make it more interesting, right? But for right now, let's just move it, shorten it, and we'll just get rid of this. Like so. Right, and that's going to be, because if the belt is smaller, it's less distracting, and I can concentrate on this upper part. I'm going to start drawing, and what I'd like to do is focus on the most important thing first, which is going to be his expression. And I'm going to look at this, this is a very nice not quite profile, and that's the beauty of the not quite profile, is that it creates depth. So the head is not flat. So I'm going to look at the brow ridge, the bottom of the nose, like so. I'm not going to draw the top of the nose. Right? I'm just going to look at the brow ridge. I want to place the eyes and get a little of that kind of wide-eyed expression in there. And I'm going to try not to outline. Outlining is kind of the death of your drawing. And so we want to look at the dark shapes. And a little trick when you're drawing that spot on this heart profile. It's a dark behind the nose. I use the bridge of the nose here to show that. Clean this up a little bit. So you have a little bit of the eyelash coming out, and that will tell us that there's somebody there, right? And then the next, so eyes and bottom of the nose gives me the front of the face. I'm looking at also the forehead, the brow ridge. The hair wraps around like so, and there's hair at the temple, and that gives me the front plane of the face. And then go straight down. The eye is here. Go straight down along this plane to find the mouth. And you draw the shape of the opening of the mouth. You do not draw the lips. You draw the shape of the opening of the mouth, and like maybe there's a dark and some teeth there, like so. Like see, right? That tells the story, right? And then the mouth, the lips, and that sort of thing I can come back to, right? But then the chin. Let's make sure this is big enough so it fits with this size face, right? Then the jawline and the neck. Now I'm going to beef up his neck a little bit because, he's a soldier, so I got to make it, pretty strong. And I'm going to play up where the sternocleidomastoid, which is this muscle that comes down from the bottom of the neck and meets the clavicle. Clavicle is here, goes back, comes here, right? So that's the center. And there's this big muscle. It has two branches at the bottom, and that inserts right at the back of the jaw, right? And I'm going to just beef that up a little bit. And create a little overlap there. I use the collar, put a dark, and that will go behind, and then draw the edge of the top of the shoulder. And then, if you look closely, let's get in real close, and we see like the collar here. It's hard to see because the light and it's flattened out, but it has a specific kind of collar. And I'm going to use that, but I'm going to make it visible because right now it's not visible. You can barely see it. I want my character to have the right costume, so I'm going to take that information. It just comes down to a V and flares out. So I'm going to put it like this and have this one wrap around in the back, drop down and fold over and go down and meet the other one, right? So I can put a shadow in there, right? So it's like going under, and this wraps around like so. There might be a little bit of a seam or something, like so, like that. And so that's going to read a little, I don't like that shape that much, so let's push it out here, like this. Yeah, so that you can do better. You can just make the shape, read. Okay. Clean that up a little bit later. That's what come back to detail. Don't get too lost in the details. You just want the most important information. So back to the head, I'm going to put the ear in. And I'm not going to draw too much, just a little bit to make sure it's there, right? And then the hair, I'm going to make it a little messier. You know, if he's just fighting, you know, things are, you know, not in order, right? If he's a Roman soldier, he's probably hasn't had a bath in a while, right? So I would come back and, you know, hit up some of this and make him a little messy. Make sure you have enough head there. Maybe add a little bit because eyes are in the middle. So yeah, I'll probably come back. I'm gonna do the hair later. That's not important. Hair is easy to do later. I'll do a whole thing on hair. Next, I'm going to look at the hand. That's the next most important. Like first thing, face. Right, that you do that first. Then second one, hands. Right, so I'm gonna just basically keep this angle. I only moved it a little bit, so I just draw, you know, the kind of basic shape here. And what I'll do is I'll hit the overlap at the wrist to really bring the hand forward. And look at the overall shape. Don't draw the fingers, just the overall shape. And then make sure that the hilt of the sword is going the right direction to fit across. Like look at the knuckles, and then you put the sword in. And then pommel of the sword. And generally what I do is when things meet, I put a little dark, because light doesn't get in there, right? And if I put that dark in there, it makes it feel solid. And then here, put the forearm. Now I made the forearm a little dinky, a little small in my sketch. So I saw that before. I'm going to beef it up a little bit, and I'm going to hit this muscle because the muscles are engaged. I'm going to put a little time on beefing up this arm. Remember, when you get to the wrist, it's mostly a 2x4. You see dark and the light on there, right? So we're going to put the dark here. Heavy up this outside edge. And just draw the shape you see right there. The elbow has 3 points, and it's dark over here. And the nice dark have some weight and come forward. High contrast comes forward. And then here, now this I'm going to make up. You cannot see the sleeve at all. You see over here, but you can't see it here, right? So I'm just going to put a part of an ellipse here, have the arm go into it, and put a dark, right? And that's going to create depth, right? So the forearm comes in front, goes to the hand, make sure the hand is the right size for the head, this size to this size. Hand should not be too much bigger than the head, like for comics and heroic fiction. You know, sometimes you kind of beef up the size of the hand. It's like making the sword extra big or giving the character a big gun. You know, it's just a slight exaggeration. Right, so I'm going to do that here and keep that hand big enough. Right. And then the back, I draw the knuckles coming across like so, like that. And I'm going to fill this in with a little dark, like that. And back to the sleeve. Now I'm just going to have a little and like some rhythmic lines here on the bottom of this sleeve. And there's going to be some compression folds on the top, and then it's going to pinch at the shoulder below in the underarm, right? So I just need to put this overlap here, like so, and that'll keep the arm coming forward. And then on the top, I will hit the shoulder really strong, so it comes in front and pops. And then when I finish the hand against this edge right here, the hand's going to pop forward too. And then so use the strap of this wrapping around the shoulder, comes in front. It can come in front of the collar, that's fine, like so. And then it thins out, turns, right? So here the wide part, and here the thin part, and it probably meets some bolt or something. And again, if we talk about design, I'd show you how to do something a little more interesting there. For right now, I'm just going to draw the silhouette shape, right? And then I'm going to put a little shadow. See the shadow here on the torso from this belt. That's going to be useful, right? So I'm going to put a little shadow here, but it's going to drop away very quickly, right? Because I just want to draw the shape. I don't want to make that shadow too strong, right? And then from here, have the fabric drop away from the shoulder and go back, like so. Use some texture on this plane, goes behind, right? And then down here we can see overlap over the top of the belt, right? So a little bit of extra fabric, just have it go overlapping the belt on the top of that edge. And then you have like 1, 2, 3 pinch folds, and then draw the belt. This time on the bottom is not overlapped. It goes around and behind, hides underneath this fabric. And then in the back, some more compression folds. Now you see those folds. Now we got to they start at the back and go to the front. They're wrapping around, right? Don't just outline that shape, but no, you just see how it pops out against the silhouette. Use that, a little overlap, and then pull them forward. And you could put a little shadow or something if you want along in here. A little shadow under that arm, that's not going to hurt. Okay. And then the belt, in the back of the belt, wraps around, make it flat underneath this fabric. And then the fabric has to come out from under the belt, and put a couple of pinches there, right? It's being pinched, like so. Right? So that's how you're going to handle all that information there. You don't copy that. See, if you just draw along the edge there and copy, it doesn't tell the story. Right? It's not gonna really look right. Instead, you have to, show the story of what's in front, what's behind, with clear overlaps and wrapping around. Now let's go back to the other hand. That's the other important thing, is this other hand. And put the thumb in front. Notice how the fingers curve around there. And I'm just going to look at, that shape, and the back of the knuckles to the fingers there. That's cuts in a little bit, goes behind, and then the strap comes out. And then we go across to the other side, there's the other strap. And we just, don't just copy what you see, right? Show enough of the strap coming out that we can see what it is in your drawing, right? So, like this, right? And then the inside of the shield, will again, if I get a chance, I will do a little recording on design and talk about that. But for right now, I'm just going to keep it as simple as possible. And just make the strap fit to the plane it's on. Show the fingers wrapping around the strap. Put the strap on top. A dark is fine there. It's a dark strap. It's leather. We expect it to be dark, right? And then so why not put some dark here too? Right, so dark on. I know it's facing the light, but you see this is a dark local value, right? So what I would do is just leave a little highlight at the top, like this, light in there, and then dark the rest, right? It's fine to have a nice, strong, high contrast near the center of interest, right? Then, okay, so now get to this forearm. Make the forearm go back by overlapping. So you gotta draw the hand, the thumb, pinky side in front, and then volume on, and it doesn't show it that well. It looks just so flat there, right? But we don't want flat, right? The muscles at this part of the arm are quite round when they're engaged, right? So I'm going to create a round shape here and just build that up so it feels round. And then I'm going to draw on the top of the form, I'm going to put some compression folds, 1, 2, 3, right? And then fold them over and show overlap, and then have, again, just like we did over here, show the inside of the sleeve, and the arm is coming out from it, right? And wrap it around. There's a nice volume on this form, right? And then we can have these compression folds get all squished together here, and maybe a zigzag fold or something. This is where I would just show like a simple piece of the silhouette here to show that there's a lot of fabric, and we'll just put a tone over it, knock it back, like so, right? And we can even have a little bit of like a cast shadow coming from the shield. I would just wrap it around the top of the shoulder and down so that it looks like this is all in shadow, like so. And if we put another shadow, a little bit of tone on that part of the arm, it's going to go back. Hit this edge so it comes, make the front of the torso strong, that line strong, so it comes forward and this goes back. Right. See, it's going to go far, far away and look like it's bent. Right. Okay, let's take a pause right now and stamp this marker. So 1, 2, 3, 4, circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, circle. Okay, so what I've done is flopped it. I've flipped my canvas. It's good to do that once in a while. It's also good to take a step back and take a step back and really observe. Look at the whole thing, right? So you don't get too caught up in details. That is the death, getting caught up in details. So going back to here, I'm just going to add the strap here. And just make sure it's the same angle, right? And it's going to come up, wrap around. And I just see in the strap here on the reference goes behind the sleeve, and that doesn't really clearly show much. So I'm going to show it is in front and the sleeve is behind. Right? And it wraps around the arm and attaches to the shield. And I can make it dark, like so. And again, a little cast shadow under there, under that arm. You know, there's no light in there under the hand, etc. So I haven't even designed the shield yet, but I don't need to know what that design is to put this shadow or to put the dark under the hand and the arm. Right? You see if I, and then see if I leave a little light right here, it's like reflected light coming in and hitting the bottom of the form. Right? So that's going to be the shadow shape. That's the arm shape. That's the core shadow shape. And just fill this in a little bit. Less light as it goes into the sleeve. Right? And that's going to create volume. And make the strap belong to the arm be part of the strap. Like so. Okay. Now, so we did the face, the hands, shoulders, the strap, the folds at the belt. Right. Next most important thing is probably be the feet and the legs. So I would think that, you know, this dress, or sorry, the tunic, this part is probably the easiest thing to draw. So I'm going to go down, look at these feet, and say, okay, in my sketch, it's a little thick at the ankle, right? So I'm going to look at the reference and see the ankle and this tendon comes down very strong. And there's a change in direction here, right? So I'll put the ankle in. That's my landmark. And I'll put the tendon in, sure, why not? And the top of the arch on the foot. And if you look closely, you can see the arch wrapping around this bony shape on top. And you can see where the change in angle from down from the leg to the top of the foot is. Right? And I want to show that. So that comes in front, right, and creates the front plane of the foot down to the toes. And I want to look at the angle, basically heel to toe, to get this angle right. So I'm going to draw the bottom of the sandal wrapping around. That's an ellipse. And it's going to go back to this point and draw the heel. And it looks like there's a piece of the sandal is back there, a strap is back there. Right? I need to make it just simple. And so I'm just going to put, you know, the toe, the big toe comes in front, the ball of the foot comes in front, right? And the sandal, you know, go ahead and make it dark. So it's going to be flat. And you see how that zigzags in right there. I'm going to use that to create depth. So I can see the side of the sandal, then I don't, and then I see it again. And then the strap goes across, and the other strap comes across, like so. And then for the toes, just don't draw the toes, just draw the little shadow at the bottom of each toe. We'll come back to that later. It's not important. not as important as getting these straps to wrap around, because that is going to show volume. Maybe put a strap like this. That's going to be simple. And then the ankle on the other side is a little lower. Ankle on the inside is a little higher. And I want to have a little overlap right here. And then get to the knee. Now, the knee is just a box, a wedge shape. So, and then nice strong curve, and then on the back the gastrocnemius is engaged, so a little more weight there. Right. And then the next foot, so move that out of the way. Right. Now, this one I see more of the sandal, and the heel is shifted, right? So that means, he's pushing off of the ball of the foot, and the heel is sort of turned under. Right? So I'm going to look at how can I show that. Again, ellipse for the bottom of the sandal meeting the ground, and I look at the heel to the toe. So I put the toe here, have this go back. Again, ellipse in the back, wraps around, and then it comes forward, like so. And then put the ankle in front, heel behind, right, and put the instep in front so you have a clear overlap. Like so. Again, there's that tendon, and again, the arch of the top of the foot, and then the shape of the toes coming around, right? So, then the ankle on the other side, just show the overlaps nice and clear. Show the overlaps, and then we have knee, again the wedge shape, and here we're drawing this inside of the knee is bone, and there's a strong, straight, kind of flat plane here from knee to ankle, and then the gastrocnemius pops out from behind the knee, and it's engaged, so it creates this strong shape, and then taper. On the outside, we said before, the big curve, like so. Right. There. So those are the most important things. The rest is actually pretty easy, and we have to do is, look at the wrap around. So like on the strap below the knee, just make sure it's wrapping around. Your ellipse is strong, right? And the same on the other knee, just wrapping around, and you just complete. Toes, you just draw the shadow shapes between the toes, don't draw the toes. Belt is just a flat plane. Draw a little box here where that's the knot, and then just draw two shapes, one small, one big. Keep them basically flat. Just show the overlap. And I'm just going to put a tone on there. That whole belt. Actually, I should erase this first. This is the beauty of Photoshop. You can keep things on separate layers, so you can just erase right over. You don't have to redraw. So, tone, tone, tone. I'm going to make this dark back here. And this one's a little darker, it's further back. This one's a little lighter, it's forward. There, right? Now, the rest is just this fabric. Now, I would just say we just need to remember that points of tension. So there's tension from this side pulling to this side, right? So all of these, there's plenty of loose, and it looks like it's dropping down, but it's dropping from the belt or the back to this knee, right? So it's this cross body action that I want to remember and show. So I just take this shape, bend it a little bit, right towards the knee, maybe have a secondary, and then on this side we're going to draw some compression folds, so that they go pinched at the waist, dropping, wrapping around, a little overlap, right, and then flat along the leg until we get to the knee, and then again wrapping around, so show the ellipse, then a little stretch. It doesn't have to be stretched fully because there's plenty of fabric, and if I change the bottom edge so that it looks like it's got extra fabric, that's going to work better. Then a little shadow, again a little shadow where the fabric meets the leg, creates depth, and then again wraps around here, and a little shadow where it turns under, yes, and then on this side a little wobble, right, like so, and then maybe one more soft, fill these in, quick, simple, straightforward, right, just more darks at the left than the right, right? And then let's see, shield and sword. Well, the only thing about the sword is just make sure you get the angle right on the hilt, right? So we see the flat of this form. It's like a 2x4. Let's just make those lines going parallel with the sword, and then it comes back. And it's round. I know it looks square, but it's basically the shape we're looking at is like this, with the sword in the middle, and this straight edges, but then round. Right, that's the design. So here it wraps a little bit and then goes straight, and here goes behind, right? So again, you can just like throw that tone in there. It looks good, and then you see there's that little shadow there. We'll use that, put that in there, like so. And then move that out of the way. It's in the sword. I would just generally rotate the canvas so that I can draw this sword more comfortably. And I'm just going to find the point. The Romans had short swords. That's pretty much the right shape. So I'm just going to like follow this along here and draw the point. It's very pointy, being a sword. And then I'm freehanding this, right? So I'm just going to draw the dark edge, bottom edge, and then I'm going to fill in. It's going to be dark to light, and the top edge is light. So keep the thin, that's light. This line is thin. The one on the bottom is thick and heavy, right? And we're going to just, go light to dark. Light to dark. There. Right. Bring it back. Take a step back and see, like, does that look okay? It looks okay, I think. So we're at 90% done. I would just spend some time putting this shield in. So I would just I like to freehand it. You know, you can, in Photoshop, you can do perfect circles too, of course. But this is a hand-built shield. Right? So just, you know, make sure you rotate your canvas so that you can make it easy on your hand. There we go. And then I think, you know, just in terms of time, I would just go ahead and put a layer underneath, put a layer on the bottom. So see my layer structure. Right? This is all the stuff we did before, all of this stuff. It's all the analysis. Right? So I just put that stuff into a folder. Yeah, we don't want that. So that, just put that in a folder. And this is the drawing I have. So that one. These two layers I can merge, right? Because they're not conflicting with each other, right? So I can just merge those here. I can merge those. And let's get rid of this. And then that's the underdrawing, you see. So that's my drawing. Then I add a layer on the bottom. And just in terms of time, you know, it's just very time consuming to render all that. So I'm just going to pick a medium light tone, right? And make my brush. I'm going to make my brush a flat, so I'm going to turn off shape dynamics. I'll keep the transfer going, and that will allow me to put in big areas of tone, right? Quickly, right? So I just make sure my tone is not too strong, right? And I'm just going right in here, fill this whole thing up. Just go right through there and make the brush a little smaller to fit into this corner here. Put a little shadow here. And you see there's some guides to how to put the tone in. I'll put the tone on the side of the head, on the top of the crown, on the back of the neck, under the arm. And again, I'm just going quickly and loosely because I know I can come back in with my eraser and clean it up. So just tone on this whole side. This leg is very much in shadow. It's gone behind. And so I can keep it behind by just putting the tone down on that. Right? I can leave a little bit of light on the right side of that form, and then when it gets to the ankle, mostly light on the top of the foot, and then have some tone coming across here, and then a little bit on the side. You see how the muscle of the gastrocnemius catches light right here where it turns. Keep that there, and then a little tone on the side there. Right? Tone on the belt for the local value. Okay. So that's the idea. Something like that. Then use your eraser to clean this up and hold the silhouette of the face, like so. Right. Now, I didn't get to fingers because that's sort of the least important thing. I will say that, you know, if you want, you could go a little darker on the tone in some places. Like, you see, in here, it's pretty dark along the shield there. So I just go in here a little bit darker because that's the center of interest, right? So I'm just going to knock this back a little bit like so. Dark. And I turn the opacity down, so I want to go like a little light to dark. So I get a little bit of dark in there, but I don't want it to be too strong. I'm just sort of modulating the darks a little bit here. Yeah, a little darker back here. Right. And there you. I think that's pretty much enough for now. There's more stuff I can do to clean up and kind of finish. But that's the basics of how you would interpret this reference. You've avoided all the pitfalls of tangents and copying without thinking, and we've done with the most we can with this pose. It's not the greatest pose, but it tells the story. It's not, as I said, depending on your storytelling needs, you might need to change the pose a lot, in which case you'd have to just get a new reference or do a new shoot, something like that. But for now, I think we've done pretty well. So remember, when you're picking reference, watch out for things like this tangent with the hand and the shoulder, which is really deadly. That would really flatten everything out if you're not careful. And hidden parts like this arm, we need to really see like how the arm bends. Oops. And draw most important stuff first after your plan. Remember the plan we made, which was this. Right? The plan solves all the problems. The strap wrapping around, the belt going to the left instead of down, placement of the shield, angle of the head, placement of the sword, the hand, the shoulder, exaggeration of the lean in, placement of the feet, like all of that stuff is done before you start drawing. That's the plan. And then the finish, you start with most important first. So face, hands, shoulder, strap, and you're just drawing to create depth and make things feel like they're solid. So that's it, with the exception of a few finishing up details. I think we should probably stop here and say thanks for watching. Again, it's this is for the Academy interpreting reference demo. If you want to see more, you can always check me out on Instagram or go to my website, which I'm sure we will tag in the comment section. Right, visualbabble.com, or you can just look me up. Oops. Just look me up on Google. You'll find my website, or you can go to my Instagram under Visual Babble, or Facebook page under Art of Christopher Schenck. And you can always, check out the Academy announcements when we post these demos. We hope to do more. We'll see. Anyway, thanks for watching, and stay safe out there. Okay, well, that was it. I think we're done. Remember, pick and choose what you draw off your reference. Don't just copy. And watch out for tangents, and remember to try and get as much information as you can to see what you're doing. All right, good luck, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.